Good morning, afternoon, or good evening, folks. I'm your host and guide, Chris Roberts. I'm going to take you on a tour of the underground to help you prepare for what's really out there. Whether you're on the front lines battling the latest threats or leading the overall defensive strategy within your organization, my focus is to help you uncover the best ways, means, and methods to effectively and efficiently use actual threat intelligence within your company, providing you with more insights and practical ways to identify threats and reduce risks before they become incidents. Ready to dive in? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Dr. Dark Web. Today we are going to do the Doctor's Hours, questions and answers, and a whole bunch of other stuff that are being sent in from some folks. So kind of looking forward to this one. It's going to be a nice break.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome. And thankfully, I'm feeling much better this time around, and I'm not hitting mute, so I can actually speak without sounding like I've got
Yeah,
something.
you were not good. I was debating whether we need to send like a bottle of whiskey over, or Advil, or cold and flu and sinus stuff, or whatever the hell we used to use in the UK. I can't remember what it was.
All of the above,
All of
please.
the above. Yeah, there we go.
All right. Well, we have some great questions from the audience. One that actually came in last minute from a good friend and a longtime listener. I'm really stoked to get started. How about we just dive in?
Yeah, I love it. Go for it.
Cool. All right. First question we have is, from a best practice perspective, who should be part of the process to help design a threat intelligence program?
Ooh, I like that one. That's good. Everybody not, everybody excluding InfoSec. Let's face it. It shouldn't. I mean, it's interesting because you walk into companies. A little bit of a side story on this one. Remember walking into an organization a couple of years ago now, and I walked in and was working with the InfoSec folks, and they were good, they were happy, but they were also complaining because the network team had their set of tools. I'm like, okay, well, they're your tools as well. No, those are the network team's tools. Well, do you have access? Well, we're trying to get access. Y'all work for the same damn company. Did you realize this one or not? Your tools equals their tools. Well, yeah, but they want access to our tools. And I'm like, well, we're working on giving them. I'm like, right through your heads and just go dunk. So, I mean, it's terrible because then you walk into a bloody company and it's, one team's got its tools, somebody else has got another. No wonder we end up with flipping shelfware all the time. So, in order to cut that whole mess up, to stop everybody in their tracks and to sit down and do it properly, I've worked at companies where we've actually had like an architecture review board and various other things, which will actually work really, really well. Again, as long as you've got the right people on the darn thing. And I think this falls into that, which is if you're bringing a technology in that arguably is going to benefit everybody, then it behooves you to bring almost everybody to the table. Now, you got to be careful about it because, the consensus is great until you add more than one person. And so you want to be very careful. But for me, first, I mean, you definitely want legal and compliance. That no two ways about it. Because from a compliance standpoint, there are now requirements that involve not just sitting inside your own fortress, hoping for the best, but actually involve you getting out there and having those conversations. Legal, definitely, because unfortunately, on a regular basis, you're going to find something that's going to require a legal decision or legal action, or somebody's done something, or somebody's about to do something. And rather than going, hey, surprise, you actually want them on board. The rest of IT, no to it. And by mean IT, I mean development, operations, network, server, all database folks, everybody go, hey, look, we're bringing this tool in so that everybody can benefit. And then whomever leadership or management directs that is, representative of that team definitely needs to be part of it. And the business, especially if you've got a diverse business, if you've got business scattered all over the place, either geographically, politically, spatially, or anything else like that, you're going to want different parts of the business, supply chain especially. So it's a really nice one because, there's an argument to say, well, it's our tool and we'll use it and we'll help everybody understand risk. Well, that's great. But if all you ever do is walk into the business and everybody else and go, hey, surprise, they don't understand why or where or what you're doing or where you're finding it or the value of it or the understanding of it. And eventually they're going to get pissed off. They do, oh God, here he comes again, or here she comes again. Quick, hide around the corner. That doesn't work. But if you bring somebody in the beginning and say, hey, look, we got a window. We have an absolute window into a world that we typically wouldn't see. Why don't we all crowd around and have a good look at it? Some education has to happen. But I think for me, I wouldn't say the more the merrier, but I would definitely say, the official word is key stakeholders. But the unofficial world is, bring the folks in that you actually think you're going to end up influencing with the data sets, because the more you bring them in on the front end, the less that, hey, surprise, is going to be a surprise. It's expected. So yeah, hopefully that answers that one. Bloody good question though. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a lot of kind of questions shooting in different directions in terms of kind of topical ones.
Yeah.
This is a loaded. The next one is the loaded one. So we might have to do a separate session just on this. We'll try and touch on this as concisely as we can. So, how can we use threat intelligence to plan for patch management? Can you elaborate on that?
Oh, that's a good. Yeah, I like that one. And I think it's more than just patch management. It's everything. In a simple way, it brings you the awareness. So if you look at threat intelligence as two different things, if you look at it as what are the potential threats coming, you can cross-reference that with where are we exposed. So where are we exposed is, hey, like I've got an assessment, I've got a pen test report, I've got my continuous ongoing scans, hint, hint, that's the way to go. I've got something that tells me what my assets are doing and where they are, hint, hint, get that shit in place before we do anything else. If you have something that says, hey, Log4j is coming up over the hills, and you go, software bill of goods, what do I have that uses that? Okay, now I know what I have to prioritize patching. If you look at, pick your week, the latest Microsoft issue, Apple issue, the latest Oracle issue, or whatever, you can very quickly go, okay, what assets do I have in my environment that potentially have these issues? What do they influence? Where are they influenced by? How can people get to them? Right now, let's patch everything in that sphere. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it, which is where you start taking a look at, okay, predictive nature. So this is almost like pre-CVE stuff. So typically, unfortunately, when somebody says, aha, we have a new CVE and it's got a score of X, what everybody tends to forget is there's a couple of months worth of the company arguing potentially back and forth over what's legit. There's also some period of time that the research has been trying to get hold of the company to go, hey, it stinks, and I'd love you to listen to me. And then prior to that, that research has also spent time going, I wonder how this works. Prior to that, somebody's probably also spent some time doing some pre-knowledge. So you've got potentially extended period of time where your system device architecture environment's hanging out there in the breeze, and you didn't know it's vulnerable. Now, the sooner you get to know that it's vulnerable, preferably before somebody puts the flag up and goes, hey, it's vulnerable, at which point all bets are off. It's the Wild West, because it's crazy to see how quickly it goes from CVE score to active exploit on the internet. I mean, it's nasty. Even prior to that, you get a bunch, but afterwards, it's all bets are off. There's a company on the darker side of the net going, we can help you the best on how to break into this Log4j, and we've got better prices than you have. And it's crazy. So the sooner you get ahead of that, the better chance you have of organizing, prioritizing, patching. So I think that's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it, more than anything, it probably also helps you understand better where the attacks are coming from, what they're focusing on, where they're looking at. And also, one other thing that we tend to forget about is you can't knock on the door of your third parties and go, I say, would you mind patching that for us, please? Because first and foremost, they're going to be mind your own damn business unless you've written into the contract. And even then, you protracted arguments. But you've
Yeah.
got a better understanding to go, hey, now my supply chain has potential issues because now I realize that they have patch problems if you've got decent threat intel. So there you go,
Mhm.
a couple of ideas on, and to expand on that one would actually be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we're gonna shift gears a little bit here. Go for a different question.
Cool. While you're going for a
Oh,
different question, I'm going to try this. I opened one the other day before I put them in the fridge, and they were a little scary, but I'm going to try one now. I'm feeling very low energy related, and I know why. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is
yes.
called
Oh,
At Root. It's a little scary, and apparently it's root-based nootropics and
okay.
adaptogenic performance beverage. In other words, it's got no chemical crap in it, but it's got a whole bunch of weird stuff that you dig out of the ground.
Oh, interesting. Well, you tell
Yeah,
me how that experience is.
well,
And you had
little.
me at beverage. I'm low on coffee here, so we'll
Oh, I
try and
get
make it through the.
it's late in the evening. I guess I could probably have a cup of tea because a cup of tea actually settles you down, but I need to be
Yeah.
awake for another couple of hours. So here we go.
Let me know how that is. And what flavor is that?
Oh,
Delish.
it's a little strange. It's like fizzy roots.
Oh,
You know
fizzy
the
roots.
fizzy roots. You know, like the very root based. It's all strange. It's weird. It's not bad. It's better cold than it was when it was warm. Let's just put it that way. I love it because it's got like a mix of Space Invaders and Tetris on it. It's freaking
Well,
awesome.
that's why you bought it.
Well,
Be
duh.
honest.
Yeah, well, that and the
That's
fact
why
I
you
was on
bought
I
it.
was doing the Wicked Cyber Games, the women in security, the cyber games, and
Uh-huh.
the AppRoot folks were sponsoring some of it. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna go buy some of their beverage because you get like a 50% off. And I'm a sucker for that. I'm like, oh, I can save money on something I never needed in the first place. So I bought some, and I got 2 cases of it, and I gave a case away.
There you go,
It's all scary. All
ladies
right,
and
so if I
gentlemen.
start getting wired and I start talking faster or in Gaelic, then we know we got bigger problems. All right, off we go. What do we got?
Awesome. One wonderful intermission. Rudy Fizz, Fizzy Roots. I don't even
Fizzy
know.
roots. Scary, earthy, fizzy roots.
Awesome. All right, next question. How would you use Oh, okay, this came from a longtime listener, great friend, and very much thank you very much for this question. How would you use threat intelligence to tune penetration testing environments from a consumer and provider perspective? And what do you
Alrighty.
see fall under penetration testing? There are lots of options, right? Web network, external, internal, black glass, gray, people, process, technology, etc. Let's dig into that.
One of the greatest debates in information security. What is a penetration test? I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? We can't even agree in our own environment what constitutes a penetration test. So let me give you my thoughts on this one. To me, there are you've got basically 4 levels. You've got scan, which is all I do is I run a scan. I go like, you like shine a light. Is the door? Oh, is there a door? Let's start with the easy one. Shine a light. There is a door. Great. I've scanned. We're done. Thanks. Have a nice day. And by the way, there's windows, but that's all I'm going to do. So that's scanning. Now the assessment is I'm going to go up and I'm going to go rattle the door and the windows. I'm actually going to go poke at them and see if I can see if they are locked, see if I can get into them nice and simply and easily. Again, that is really simple stuff. I mean, it's fully autonomous, blah, 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 all this other good stuff. And you can just point, squirt, and wander off. Now, a lot of people will call that penetration. Like, it isn't really. Penetration is what it is, which is like, my ass is going to break in. I'm going in through the window. I'm going down from the chimney. I'm tunneling up from the floorboards. I'm swinging across the cable from next door neighbors. Or I'm just going to walk in the front door with the user ID and password that I found on the darker side of the internet earlier on this afternoon. So that's the penetration side. There's one further than that, which is the extreme side, which is to me, it's the red teaming. That's something we'll get into that one day. Penetration is penetration. It is within the confines of what you're allowed to do. Sometimes you're allowed to kick the floor down. Sometimes you're allowed to blow the door up. Not always, though. More often than not, you're allowed to knock on the door between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m., but not during a business day. And for goodness sakes, don't touch production, otherwise you'll break in who knows what. But the whole concept of penetration is that ability to basically go beyond just rattling that front door and the window. It's how do I get in? What can I do? Where can I go? Can I route around? And then if I'm routing around, what can I get to? Can I get to can I get to the gold mine? Can I get to the trade secrets? Can I get to the stuff you never ever want to have exposed to the light of day? Can I turn the nuclear reactor off? Can I make the lights blink in the middle of, New York City? That's full penetration at that point in time. And so to do that, when you think about intelligence and think about data, well, as a hacker, we're kind of lazy. We're going to sit there and wait for somebody else to do the work. If the rabbit gets run over and it's roadkill, yes, I don't have to expend any energy chasing. I can just go down, feed it to my heart's content. Welcome to the hackers. For a lot of us, it's like, oh, look, your team left code on this user ID and there's the password. Oh, somebody was talking on the Oracle forum. And there's there's the essay and ID and password to get in. Oh, by the way, there's the code. Or, I knocked on the door and somebody was very gracious and opened it for me. And not only did they open it, they took the package from me that I asked them to hold on to for 10 minutes, if you don't mind. Welcome to social engineering in the physical and the digital world. So we're kind of carrion feeders unless I actually have to break out my own framework and I have to compile my own code or use my own zero-day exploits. Oh, hell no. So when you look at really good threat intelligence, what you can do is go, what is already out there? What can I use to my advantage? Can I use the fact that your employees or your team members or whatever you want to call the folks that work with you, can I use the fact that they use their corporate email on, say, Craigslist to buy and sell things? Do they use it to buy stuff on Alibaba? Or can I find out their account on eBay or any of these other things on social media? Do I know their Facebook info? Do I know their LinkedIn? This is all carrion feeding. So I can use that to get a better understanding of somebody so that I can basically circumvent them. I can socially engineer them. I can do whatever I need to. If you're going to buy something off of Craigslist, hey, I've got this as well. Are you interested? Well, great. Now I've got an avenue in. Or I know we used it a bunch of times with a whole bunch of engineers. They were geeky engineers and they were all about doing autonomous systems in their homes. So we helped them. And in doing so, we handed them payloaded files and all sorts of other stuff. So it made life easy for us when we were doing this kind of stuff. But the only reason you know that is by doing that threat intelligence, researching the humans. Now let's research the technology. Let's look at the technology stack that organization has. How do you know that? Well, let's go look at their recruitment. What kind of job postings? What kind of openings? Which vendors are crowing from the top of the mountain saying, we sold them this bit of hardware, aren't we wonderful? And thanks for opening the door for me. So there's all of these different ways of just doing intelligence. Then you can go away and go, what exploits exist? What's out there in the wild? Who's talking about it? Where is it? And we haven't even gotten onto like development teams or operational teams on all the various different coding forums and all this stuff. So there's a ton of ways where when you're doing a pen test, typically, if you're doing it properly, you can start off with an entirely blank canvas. Now you'll gather information as part of the assessment and, where am I attacking? What am I looking at? So you'll be able to fill in some of the blanks. But then really that threat intel starts putting more pieces. So all of a sudden you get a much better picture of the organization. You understand how the network's put together. You understand the people, the process, and the technology. And now you can figure out where your attack vectors are. So that's really from an engagement standpoint. Now, from a consumer standpoint, if we flip it a little bit, I'm sitting here, playing a perfect example. I'm sitting here with a very strange fizzy drink that has nootropics and all sorts of other stuff. Well, if I want to research this, I'm going to go to the internet and I'm going to research it. No different than if I'm bringing technology into my house. No different than if I'm looking for cameras. Perfect example. We know, unfortunately, one of the biggest camera manufacturers, we're talking like home surveillance stuff, was in the news this last couple of weeks. So now if you're going to go get those ones, are they patched? Are they managed? How's it done? All these things. If you're a consumer that's going to ask those questions. Logic says you ask the same questions when you buy a car. So we need to get people into that mindset to ask the same questions when they buy technology. Typically, people buy a car these days want to know the safety ratings. Some of them care about wanting to know how much pollutants it's going to have. Some care about various other things, how does it perform? What does it do? All these other things to it cars. Well, with technology, we need to get to that same consumer base to go, hey, is putting this into my home going to increase my risks? Is it going to decrease them? What's it made of? Where's the software? How is it made? Who's got access? Where's the app? How well is it secured? All these other things that, again, you can go Google and ask Google, or you can do intelligence gathering and find out how good, bad, or ugly that bit of tech is you're about to put in your home. So A provider would be the same thing. If you're looking to bring something in to then sell on or resell or do something with, I would argue it's exactly the same tactics. It's building that picture of anything that you're interested in, supply chain, third party provider, whatever. Build that picture, build that intel packet, and go, what can you tell me that I didn't already know? How can you help me understand risk? How can you help me calculate that if I bring this bit of tech in or I bring this provider in, I'm either increasing or decreasing risk? And what can I do about it? So, yeah, some interesting stuff on that one. I like that one.
And we're definitely going to dig into that deeper on another episode for sure.
Yeah, there's
Um,
so much. And I think, I mean, we're skimming the surface on these, and I think hopefully it helps people understand that. I mean, exactly to your point, there's like an entire episode on just, I mean, we could do an entire episode, honestly, on what a consumer, let alone what a small business can do, because we've done some stuff on that. I'd be
mhm.
really interested. We should think about this. And this actually good to whoever put this question out there. I'd be interested to go, what can you as a consumer do to better arm yourself with more information?
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, this
All
is
right.
weird. It's kind of Moorish. In English, there's a word called Moorish. It's addiction would be probably the most modern one. It's that desire to continue to have that experience. It's shortcake biscuits for me are they're lethal. You can't eat one. Girl Scout cookies. You cannot open a roll of Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies and just have one. There is an entire law of physics that makes it's that law of attraction. Moorish. You just want one, you're like, I need another, and I need another, and then you're
Oh
on the
my
second
goodness.
box, and then it's never good from there.
Oh, don't even get me started on Girl Scout cookies. Next question from our audience, Danny. What is your favorite Girl Scout cookie?
All right, what is so? And now there we go. Intelligence feed. Let's start digging on the intel feeds. Oh my gosh, it'd be hilarious.
Thin mints.
Actually, that is a question.
Is it what are
Get
they?
Girl Scout cookies over there.
Samosas? Samoa?
Oh, the
Something.
Samoa, those the coconut
Oh,
covered ring ones. Yeah,
yes.
those are good. I
Mhm.
should send you a box. Do you get them in that neck of the woods or not? Do I have to
No,
FedEx
it's
them up?
been a good 20 plus years since I've shoved a
We'll
box
send
of.
you. I'll send you some Girl Scout cookies. Or I'll bring them over for Cyber Week. I'll bring
There
Girl
you
Scout. I
go.
normally do actually. I'll bring Girl Scout cookies over.
There you go. I feel like I should start, making my wish list for you, Chris, when
Yeah,
you're
there we
over
go.
there for
That
cyber.
works. Twinkies and
All
Girl
right.
Scout. Twinkies are scary.
All right. We've gone off on a tangent, but this is good. I mean, I have this great tweet on my Twitter thread pinned at the top. Any Zoom call without food should just be an email. So any podcast episode with no food talk or fizzy
That's
roots should
awesome.
just be an email or
There
a
we
Twitter
go.
thread or
I
whatever.
could
All
deal
right.
with that.
Another great intermission. Transitioning back to our talking points, our questions. Next one. Okay, this is also a loaded topic, but we're all right. Does good threat intelligence do anything to help or speed up or work through the process of tracking and identifying an adversary?
Oh, we could make this one short and sweet and just go, yes, next. Or we could dig into it a little bit. Because again, it's so the irony of this one is we're in the middle of doing a little bit of incident response. And for a client, and like anything, we got this entire pool of stuff. You walk in and you're like, great, the building is no longer burning down. We've managed to damp out the fire, and everybody stood around going, well, how the hell did that happen? And what happened? And where did that come from? We weren't expecting it. And everybody's a little bit dazed. And we're sitting there asking for stuff and we're getting it. And now we've got it. We've got to make sense of it. And so we've got a process that we take all of our stuff through. It's like the bloody mincing machine. You put it in the top and out comes, and great, now I've got the stuff I want. But I've still got to know what questions to ask it. And I've still got to know, from an adversarial mindset, I've got to look and go, where were the potential attack vectors for this organization? I've also got to go out there and go, hey, is there any chatter about this organization out there on the darker side of the net? Now, in this case, there absolutely was. We found the ransomware stuff. We found the site. We found the organization. We've done done a fair bit of digging. And all of that has been based off of doing some basically threat intelligence work. You build the packet on the company, IP addresses, names, email addresses, locations, critical infrastructure, keywords, all these other things. You build it, you feed it into that platform and go, tell me what the world is talking about outside of what they realize. And it came back with a bunch of stuff, and we chased a bunch of it down, and we were like, okay, now we know the group that was responsible for getting into this organization. We now know the type of tactics they use. And now let's back into it and go, okay, can we chase down those attack vectors from the inside and from the outside and go see if they're valid? And in this case, they absolutely were. Unfortunately, it came in through a social engineering attack, which is one of their modus operandi. So we were able to identify that. And then off we went from there. So that, yeah, there's definitely speeds it up. I think it also isn't just speeding it up, it's also adding clarity, because no matter what, in the physical world, if somebody does wrong by us, or somebody does wrong by us. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but in other words, if somebody does something to us that's bad, we want to understand it, and unfortunately, we want retribution. Well, in the digital world, the chances of getting retribution are about zero, maybe a little above that, but not by much. But we want to know, we want to understand. So that whole idea of wanting the smoking gun and what happened or why, it isn't a witch hunt or anything, but it is definitely wanting to learn and understand. So this definitely helps a lot. No two ways about it.
Amazing. All right, we have a last question. Actually, this is a question coming from me. We obviously are all under the gun. We had some chats on the side. Stressed, you're stressed. We're kind of going through some things, all of us,
Yeah.
given the climate. I mean, for God's sakes, you're drinking fizzy roots. So, uh,
It's because I'm not drinking alcohol for the entire month of April.
good
So
for you.
yeah, anyway, keep going. We'll have that conversation.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, one thing that you'd mentioned that's been a challenge is prioritization, right?
Yeah.
I'm there too. So what are you doing to prioritize work? Take me through what you're going through right now a little bit.
I mean, it's tough because, there's a bit of a balance going on. The balance is, balancing HHS and then obviously the new job that, as we're recording, this is about to start. Probably when this plays, I'll already be in there, which would be totally cool. But there's that balance between now taking a step back from a lot of the HHS stuff, making sure that things will continue, things will operate, and that in itself is kind of tough. Going, okay, will the light stay on? Logic says yes, thoughts say yes. We'll see what happens. I mean, not much I can do about it. So that's part of it. Part of it is also, it's what if I can look into myself and go, what's causing me the most angst? There's a report that I'm still waiting on a couple of people to get certain things to me from, and it's driving me nuts because the client's like, is a good friend, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm waiting for stuff and I'm chasing it down, and that's frustrating. But there's nothing I do. The only thing I can do is communicate and say, this is where we're at, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. We've had the conversation on the financial side of the world. It's frustrating where every single month you send the invoices out, and this isn't new shit, people. This is the same stuff we've been sending invoices out for the last, 6 months or so for certain companies, or longer for others. Why do I have to get past the end of the month and still bloody chase you? That's annoying as all hell. So prioritization on that is literally lining up, having to have those conversations. So that de-stress, but it's so frustrating to have to do it. I think a big chunk of it is what can I chunk out? So I break my days up. I actually break them up relatively well. So when I get up in the morning, I will go through LinkedIn, I'll clear stuff down, I'll look at stuff, knowing full well that I'll return to it later to do posts and other things. But once it's cleared down, I close it down. Then I'm focusing on a couple of emails and some work and getting that cleared down. Then that gets closed down. I'm like, okay, now I've got to focus on projects. And as long as I can focus on projects, and quite honestly, half the time it's a post-it note that I've got the project up, but it's a post-it note because I can actually, they can physically cross something out as done. And for me, I mean, that's still, I've still got my post-it note here, for goodness sakes, that is stuff on it that I'm still going to work on tonight and tomorrow. And that's, some of it, is it client facing? Is it internal? What's the deadline? Perfect example. There's a couple of conferences coming up. They've been fantastic to me, but now I don't want to feel like I've taken advantage of somebody. because I haven't responded. I don't want that prima donna bullshit going on. That's like, oh, it's Chris, and no, it's I am beholden to the same timelines as everybody else. But that also means, I need to sit down and go, okay, I owe people information so that they can do their job more effective. I think that's the other part of it as well is, am I holding up a process? If I am, then absolutely that's got to be more of a priority. But it sucks really. I got to about 4 or 5 o'clock today and I'm like, I got a break. I need to get up, and I grabbed Milo and we went out. We went to the dog store, picked up more dog food for him and the others, and picked up a glove of bones, of which he was munching on one. We did the normal shopping, which was actually nice because it was good to get out and hit the shops before everybody else got there. And I ended up doing a bunch of cooking tonight, which was actually kind of cool. That actually helps me. I de-stress by cooking. And so I
There you
love cooking.
go.
I love spices and herbs and just messing around with stuff. But then we went and got pub cups. So the drive-through, there's a couple of drive-throughs, and there's a place called Dutch Brothers, and they're fantastic. They got places all over. I think really it's like central, east central, and now this neck of the woods, the US. And they do pub cups. So I will go. I typically don't drink the damn drink. I'll get a drink just because I feel like I have to pay for something. I leave a big ass tip, and then Milo gets a pup cup, which is basically a cup with whipped cream and a dog tree in the top. That dog, seeing him slobber and go crazy over it, that brings me more freaking joy than probably almost anything.
There you go. That sounds
Yeah.
actually quite delicious. I'd take whipped cream and Girl Scout cookies. Probably be slobbering over that too. So
Oh my giddy arm. So he loves. I'm very, very careful, but as Great Danes are relatively gluten intolerant, so you don't want to mess up with them. And so they do the peanut butter cookies. Girl Scout cookies do the peanut butter ones. So he will get, every now and again, he'll get like a half a peanut butter cookie, and then I'll have to put the other one back. Because I'll eat them every now and again. But again, they're the same damn things. You start eating half of one of those bloody things, and all of a sudden the entire sudding tube's gone. You're like, well, that sucked.
there you go. Well, I'm always hoping stress will go down, and as always, I'm here for you. I know the audience supports as well.
Yeah, it
What
works
we're all
both
going through.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it works both ways. I mean, you and I have had conversations as well, and it was nice. It's been nice to see you take a step back from stuff as well. That's been really, really
Yeah.
good to see. You need to. You got the Rugrat, for goodness sakes. Just get out and hang out with the Rugrat.
Yeah, that's been rewarding is to be able to just kind of take some downtime with the family. Work will always be there. So
Yeah. Yeah, says the guy about to step into a new job. That's probably on the back of it as well. I was like, "Wah," but it's fun. I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, we'll have some good conversations about that once you get onboarded. But that's super exciting. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
That's some good news.
Yeah,
It
that
took
is
took
definitely.
took a minute.
Yeah, I'm gonna do. I owe a couple of LinkedIn conversations on the whole final recruiting process. Good grief alive, are we so badly broken?
Well, we're open to hear solutions to make that better. Obviously,
Yes,
feedback to
yeah,
make that better.
probably
So,
including tasers to be perfectly honest, but I'll try to be a little
ooh,
bit more civilized.
fun,
Oh
fun,
yeah.
fun stuff. All right, last words before we sign off into the dark. Go.
Last words, last thoughts. Well, we've had some. So I think what I like about it is there's been some good conversations on this one, and we've actually gone all over. We've gone all over the place. But the key thing that I keep coming back to on this one is that inclusive side of it. Is it's all about asking more questions, and this is what I love about doing the Q&A stuff. It literally, the only way we really learn, especially if we're outside of the environment, is to ask more questions. Doesn't matter if you're the consumer, doesn't matter if you're in the tech side of it, doesn't matter if you're in the business. It really behooves everybody just to ask more questions. And I cannot emphasize that enough. I really, really can't.
All right. Well, this has been an awesome Ask Dr. Dark Web anything session, doctor's hour session. As always, we're open for feedback. We welcome your feedback on how we can do better, topics that you'd like us to discuss, or just formats, conversations, context. If that's missing, let us know. And if you have questions, head over to cyber6guild.com @doctordocweb.com/podcast, where you can add your questions for Chris directly in the website. And we'll discuss that. We'll address that on the next Doctor's Hours for sure. So until then,
see you in the dark. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Dr. Dark Web. This show is brought to you by Cyber6Girl, the threat intelligence company. If you would like to learn more, please feel free to follow or subscribe to Dr. Dark Web on your favorite podcast streamer. Or, as an alternative, you can always find us online at cyber6girl.com/podcast. You'll find all the latest episodes, goodies, nuggets of information, background, and probably some stickers or two. See you in the dark.